The ANC in Mpumalanga held its elective conference yesterday despite some members claiming there were unrecognised members and branches in attendance. Mandla Ndlovu was elected as the provincial chair, a position vacant since 2017 when David Mabuza was elected deputy president. Speedy Masilo backed the deputy chairperson, and murder-accused Mandla Msibi was elected provincial treasurer in absentia, with Muzi Chirwa as provincial secretary and Lindiwe Ntshalintshali becoming deputy secretary. The top five all allegedly belong to different factions of the provincial structure. Will this impact the national conference in December? We're joined by a political analyst from the University of Mpumalanga, Dr John Molepo. Dr John, good morning. Thanks for speaking to us. Please give us an overview of your opinion on what transpired at that elective conference.
Hugo, good morning and good morning to your viewers. Well, the overview of this conference, actually I'm excited, delighted that the conference has taken place. The reasons why I'm so excited is that, Mpumalanga is characterized, the politics of Mpumalanga are characterized by violence. We have seen people dying, we've seen fights, in their meetings. So I was, I'm delighted that the conference is set. But some of the key things that, one can say taken place in the conference is the question of Mandla Msibi being elected as the treasurer, the provincial treasurer in absentia. You'll know that Mandla Msibi, the rule of step aside because he's been charged with a case, having a case of murder. So it tells you with this kind of, the election of Mandla Msibi that we are likely to see this thing happening also in Limpopo because the provincial secretary, the new Caesar is contesting to become a provincial secretary of Limpopo. So it tells you that the step-aside rule it doesn't necessarily mean you can't even contest for a particular position. So we're likely to see that. And also, again, what is interesting is the premier, the current premier. The current premier is not was not actually elected in the top five. Hopefully that will be in the additional members. But it tells you that without the election of the current premier, it simply means that we are going to have two centers of power. With that, we are likely to see soon, probably in the coming weeks, we might see a reshuffle in her cabinet and going to the national conference. After national conference, I'm thinking where I'm sitting that we might see her being removed as the premier of the province. And also, again, it comes back and asks a very fundamental question on the national leadership. Who are these colleagues in the top five? Who are they begging for? For an example, Mandla Ndlovu, Speedy Masilo. But people are saying also that David Mabuza is the biggest loser. But I say that he has, that's why they call me a cat. He has so many lies. So I'm thinking that going to the national conference, we might see a different stake.
Okay, well, let's talk about those factions and certainly shift in allegiance. Now, Mandla Ndlovu was supposedly a big supporter of David Mabuza, but in the last few days it has been reported that he's shifted allegiance to President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Well, yeah, before the conference, he announced, the support of Cyril Ramaphosa. I'm viewing it in two factions now, in two ways. Maybe he was pronouncing Ramaphosa towards the conference so that the conference might not be disturbed or maybe challenged and then loses. So he was trying to support, but also again, let's look at the question of popularizing the leader of the ANC. And you'll know that the ANC currently is facing a serious a crisis, particularly the national. If we had to go to for election, what kind of leader do we want as a society? I think Ramaphosa is well placed. Why I'm saying so? Among people who are contesting for the leadership position, you find the question of credibility. If you look into the question of deputy presidents, you have your Mkhize, you have your Radebe and Ronald Lamola. Obviously, Mkhize, his credibility is tainted, so it's already out. And Jeff Radebe already. Most people will not want Jeff Radebe because of gerontocracy. He's old, and then we want to see government being young. And then he has served so many years. Why is he also interested to serve again? Also, let's check Ronald Lamola. I think Ronald Lamola is also best placed as a young person to take over as a deputy president. But that cannot work well if David Mabuza is not, if it can work well if David Mabuza is not contesting at all, because we shouldn't undermine the capacity of David Mabuza, even though most the factions, two factions already do not believe or do not trust in David Mabuza because of what transpired in the last Nazareth conference.
Now, Mandla Ndlovu, in his post-victory speech, talked about a unifying force and uniting the province. That cannot be an easy task. How do you see him doing that?
Well, you are correct to say it's not an easy task, but mostly the ANC believes after the election people should rally behind the elected leadership. But one thing that I know, there's still regions that are yet to see, and then obviously there are even branches that are disgruntled with what really transpired in this current election. So I'm thinking this unity can come after the national conference, because already people have chosen their sides. Who are they going to support in the national conference? For now, I don't think unity will be there. In any case, they were exercising their democracy. I think a unity is just a fallacy.
So obviously it potentially could be a little bit fractious going into the national conference in December, because the individuals that are in the top 5 positions all seem to support different factions.
Well, it's not easy for anyone to remove a sitting president. Most presidents will serve their own terms, as the first term and second term. I don't think anyone here in South Africa could contest Ramaphosa for now, particularly in the ANC, looking at the credibility of its leaders and so on. So I think for Ramaphosa it will be given.
Okay, we were speaking to political analyst from the University of Mpumalanga, Dr. John Molepo. We certainly seem to have Dr. John, are you still there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. We seem to have lost you in that last response. If you just go ahead and repeat yourself, if you don't mind.
Okay, no, thank you. I was just saying that Ramaphosa must not be naive and think or lazy that everyone who's supporting him might necessarily mean that he will win. Remember, in politics, a minute is a huge thing. It can change because people are pronouncing him. But let's go and see in the conference. So I'm saying that Ramaphosa must not be naive and must not forget to go and work the ground, because he must not undermine people who are allegedly RETs, your Malusi Gigaba, your Nomvulas and everything. Remember, these people are in the office of the ANC. So
okay, we seem to be struggling with that. Political analyst, University of Mpumalanga, Dr. John Molepo. We will leave that conversation there. Now, former President Jacob Zuma has instructed his lawyers to approach the Supreme Court of Appeal to clarify the dismissal of his application for leave to appeal. The SCA added to the long list of Zuma's court losses after dismissing his appeal to have State Prosecutor Billy Downer removed from his arms deal corruption trial. The Jacob Zuma Foundation says the 79-year-old has instructed his legal team to do everything necessary to seek reconsideration of the ruling. Zuma is facing corruption and money laundering charges in relation to a multi-billion rand arms deal with French arms company Thales. International Relations Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor will lead the SADC troika meeting to be held in Pretoria today. The meeting is expected to deliberate on issues of safety and the defense of Southern African nations. Minister Pandor and Southern African Development Community Executive Secretary Elias Vahosi will open the meeting.